Hey, this is Michael Lindsay from Vital MX. I'm out here at Kahia Creek today, and I've got a Husqvarna FC 250. I guess I'd call this a light project bike. It only has a couple things done to it. Mostly I wanted to work with the crew from Race Tech to try out a few of their upgrades on this bike. A couple things to note before I jump in that. We did get a fresh set of Dunlop MX33 tires, and I do have a full Yoshimura exhaust system on this bike, so big thanks to those guys. But again, this was mostly taking this Rockstar Edition style Husqvarna and working with Race Tech on the suspension. Has their gold valves, a revalve, a respring. It is still an air fork. I didn't do a spring conversion. I actually don't like the single side spring conversions that much. I like the air fork. I've mentioned it through our content forever. Big air fork guy here. Engine wise, they just did a cylinder head for me. And we also had an opportunity to test a Vortex ECU and some race fuel. And I actually tried it with pump gas and standard ECU, and then I tried it with the Vortex and some race fuel as well to kind of compare, how much the head helped and how much the ECU and the mapping helps as well. So this latest generation Austrian 250, I've been a little bit back and forth on what I think of it. The update engine they did a couple years ago, going even larger on the bore, shorter on the stroke. It's good mid to top. It puts out an impressive horsepower number, but it's not as good off the bottom as their outgoing engine. It doesn't have as much front side torque. It doesn't recover quite as well. And I think the recovery is the thing that really gets to me. We're out here at Kahia today. Again, it's got a little bit of sandy berms, a couple places you can bury it, and we're at altitude up here. I don't know, we're like high 3,000s, around 4,000 feet, and you just notice that lack of recovery on a stalker. So doing the cylinder head, I was kind of curious what we were going to get out of that, and we did get more power, but it felt like it built more on what was already existing. We got more mid to top, and it's honestly really exciting. It pulls fantastic mid-range, high range. There's places on the track compared to some stock 250s I've rode here lately where I'm getting out of throttle on this and I'm going to overshoot stuff. So plenty of punch up there with that cylinder head update, with them going through and giving it a good port and polish. So definitely plenty of power to be found there, a couple horse at least. But it helped the recovery character and the torque a little bit, but it still left a bit too much of that standard character. Again, this is running the bike on standard ECU and pump gas. So then I jumped in, threw in an ECU, threw in some race fuel in this thing, and that affected more of that initial response. It cleaned it up, made it a little bit more connected. I'm getting better recovery character out of it. It just kind of gets a little bit more responsive and gets into the R's a bit quicker, and then gets me into that performance that, again, the head did, while adding on top of that with the race fuel. So the two combined was really interesting. I would say the ECU and the fuel helps more of the response character, and again, that recovery character, more of that could be found from that, while the pure output came from the cylinder head mod. All together combined, fantastic. The funny part is, at the end of all of it, I would still also do one more basic upgrade. I'm still on stock gearing, which I believe is 1451. Even the Austrian factory teams with full race engines quite commonly run a 1452, and I still see why. I get it from a production standpoint. This has a very nice drawn out power. I would still add a tooth to this and just be able to pick it up a little bit quicker. Again, with the cylinder mod, I've got even more power mid to top, so it feels like it's even more stretched down. I can just rev the piss out of this bike. So I'd be more than happy to give up, again, by going up that extra tooth plus these power mods. I'd have something that's really good second, really good third gear. There's even a lot of corners on this track. Again, even at altitude, there's probably 3 or 4 places on the track I'm carrying third that I wasn't on some other stock 250s I've rode here lately where I was always going half to second. So again, their cylinder head mods are, we're still on stock piston. Like I said, I can run pump fuel in this thing. I could run race fuel. It's super reliable. Nice power upgrade there without totally breaking the bank. Suspension wise, again, I've been pretty decently happy with the Austrian bikes as of recently. My biggest complaint is on the front end under lean angle, mostly on corner entry. And here it has a lot of stuttery chop where you're just kind of like till you hit berms. And on any of the stock Austrian bikes, there's just a certain lack of comfort there, a harshness, and just the front seems to skip a little more, and I don't always trust it. Just the mod they did to me, I mean, pretty simple. I'm a bit on the bigger side now. They set up this bike, I think, for 185 pounds for me. So they bumped up the spring rate, changed the valving, gave me a little bit different air pressure setting to run. It's so much more comfortable on the initial. It handles so much better under lean angle. Still has great hold up. It's definitely a little bit softer, more comfortable setting. That's why I told them I wanted. I really want to find some comfort in this bike. But all the hold up I needed, still could push as hard, brake as hard as I wanted to. Didn't have any issues there. Went downhill and jumping off in this crappy braking bump at the bottom, and it would just about use up the stroke, but still had good bottoming control. but lean angle is where I found the biggest improvement with the Race Tech setup. I had so much comfort on that front end lean, on the edge of the tire. Just again, a little bit more comfort, a little better feel for where the front end actually was. And then as for the rear, just a little bit better control under squat. It's a slick track on exits here, and I just didn't have as many moments on a stock Austrian bike I rode here recently where the rear would step out. This one just seemed to hold its position better and just track a little better. So I said, overall, work with Race Tech guys a lot. Same thing I run with them by every time. I'm usually pretty well impressed with both ends, whether it's engine, whether it's suspension. They always have really good value for their products, and they have really good, I'd say, like research development, just time into everything, whether it's Cow, whether it's an Austrian bike, anything. I usually find something I'm pretty overall happy with. If you have any thoughts, questions, anything else of what I would do to an Austrian bike, anything else of what I think of their services, anything, throw it in the comments section below. Love to answer your guys' questions. If you enjoy our bike builds, our project bikes, reviews, our news breaks, all that stuff, give us a thumbs up, like, and subscribe.